Dr. Randall, the Soul Doctor, author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet, shares her 40 years of experience as a cross-cultural practitioner, medical futurist, and expert in 20 different modalities of healing, along with amazing interviews with some of the leading minds in medicine and big thinkers in all walks of life. The stories of our lives are the woven energies of our soul's paths. They feed and ignite the spiritual light that nourishes the universal soul, the one mind, the cosmic consciousness where we all come together. This podcast is going to be a deep dive into the personal stories of people who have made significant contributions to the planet. What formed them? What moved them to become these leaders and innovators that inspire us so? Hi, Julie.
Hi, Gail. Wonderful to see you.
Thank you. Well, welcome to Soul Stories. You know, my clients, my listeners, and the people that are new are going to find out the reason we have people like you on Soul Stories is because I only have people that have really changed the planet. You know, people that have lifted consciousness for everyone with their soul story. Wow. And I believe you are definitely one of those, you know, with your crawl to fame and putting triathlons and Ironmans on the map, not just for women, but all people. Tell us about that. I think in 1982, you were in your first Ironman. Is that correct?
Yes, Gail, thank you for that lovely introduction. As far as changing the world, we'll do it one triathlon at a time. And my moment came in 1982, as you mentioned. I did my very first Ironman triathlon. And when you say Ironman triathlon, it's about the distances. And it's a 1.2 mile ocean swim, followed by a 112 mile bike ride. And then you finish up with a marathon and 26.2 miles. So it was this ridiculous event that somehow it spoke to me. And I think you can appreciate it didn't make sense, but it went right to my heart. When I first saw this event, I went, this is insane. It's not who I am, but I can't stop thinking about it. And so the next thing you know, a year to the date after seeing my first Ironman, I was in Kona, Hawaii, participating in my first Ironman.
Wow. And the story goes, you actually fell at the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so unusual to have difficulty in a long race like an Ironman. I mean, it took me a little over 11 hours, but what was unexpected and surprising was that I was leading the race. I was about to become the women's champion from a non-athletic background to now entering my first Ironman and then leading the race and having the ABC cameras on me for hours, anticipating me as going to be the winner. I was starting to think of myself very differently. I had this metamorphosis of not self-awareness, but I started to believe in myself in a different way. I started to think I could be good at something, and not just that I could be good at something, but that I deserved to be good at something.
What I heard when you were saying it was self-confidence.
Yeah, I self-confidence, but it's sort of like, I think there's another layer below self-confidence. And I think that's the idea that you actually deserve to stand up and own your place in the world. I mean, one, it sounds like bravado.
You walked into your power.
Yes, I literally crawled into my power. Yeah, awesome. You hit the nail on the head. It was a transformative experience for me that played out on a very public stage. So there were two things going on. I was having this complete metamorphosis as a young woman of 23, and the world was watching a sporting event that drew them in this way that just winning wouldn't have. Watching me struggle and crawl to the finish really transported people to think about what would they do? What would they be willing to do to reach a goal? And it sort of changed the way people saw this event, the Ironman, with these ridiculously long swim, bike, and run. It now became a test of human will. And that people sitting on their couches literally have told me over the 40 years since that race happened, how many people watched me do the Ironman and then went on to do a triathlon. I mean, that's wonderful to hear, right?
Yes. Well, you woke up the world to this sport. And thank you for doing that, because it's been very moving, not just your original thing, but, everything you've done over time. But now people continue to do because of you,
I think they understood that you didn't have to be a championship swimmer, biker, or runner to enter an event and have sort of a transformative championship experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think finishing an Ironman really is winning.
Beautiful.
For everybody who enters.
Yeah.
It felt that way for me. I happened to be almost winning. Yeah. I look back and I think, would I have traded just crossing the line without the drama of falling and crawling to have my name on that trophy, or to be the second place woman who changed the face of a sport? It's kind of no contest. Mm-hmm. I mean, can I have my cake and eat it too? No, I can't. But I do sit with a sense of pride, I think, and gratitude for the fact that what I was doing from the deep core, heart-centered place moved people to try mm-hmm. their own experience that would maybe transform them.
Well, something very interesting happened right after that sort of pushed that change in public opinion. What was that?
Well, the Ironman, they filmed the race and they have to go back and edit it. And usually they put it on, they air it, ABC Sports would air it maybe a month or two later when they had mm-hmm. an opening. Well, what they saw on my footage was something they wanted to get out right away. So they edited it around the clock and it was on the air 2 weeks later. Mm. The response from people watching ABC's Wild Rose Sports and my Ironman race was so profound. They got hundreds of thousands of calls into ABC Studios. And they just went, wait a minute, we have got to answer all these. Everyone wondered, did she survive? Did she live? I mean, it looked that bad. And so they flew myself and the eventual women's champion, Kathleen McCartney, back to New York City. We stayed at the Plaza. They put us up at the Plaza, and we went into the studio to sit down with the venerable host, Jim McKay, and did an interview with him. And it was to answer the question, how is Julie Moss doing? And back then we didn't have the ability to record television. So I'm sitting in the studio with Jim McKay and Kathleen, and I'm seeing myself crawling to the finish line for the very second time. I watched it when it aired. I mean, I experienced it, but then I watched it. And then I watched it the second time and I started crying on screen. And it was just, I thought, oh, I'm going to be known as such a drama queen. I'm crying. But that feeling of watching yourself do something that changed your life. And mm-hmm. it really changed my life. Again, not just in the privacy of my home, but watching it in a studio. And it was, it was crazy, but it really put the sport on the map. And all of a sudden now, literally overnight, there was an opportunity for me to consider a career as a triathlete, because all the different networks wanted to put on a race. They wanted to have something that they could claim was similar to what ABC had footage-wise. So the media drove our sport to become more popular. And then everyone wanted to participate. So then on a local level, communities started putting on races, and it just grew and grew to the point.
Did you right away keep competing? Did you feel at all like hesitant after that happened to your body, or?
Good question. I mean, I was not going to turn down the offer to fly to different places around the world and compete. They wanted to fly me. I mean, there was that part, sure, I'll do that.
Well, you liked the idea of inspiring people, it seems like.
Well, yeah. And it inspired me to travel and to
mm-hmm.
become a better athlete. I mean, I wasn't an experienced athlete when I entered my first race. So the fact that now I'm considered a professional athlete, I kind of had to fake it till I made it and learn along the way. But yes, I did have that moment of, will I ever be able to push myself as hard as I did that first Ironman? And I think that what I decided was, I don't know. I think that could be really scary. So what I think I'll do is push myself training to get ready for the Ironman, as opposed to push myself that hard in a race, go into the unknown. And so I try, and that is one of the habits, the life lessons that I learned from that first Ironman, was that I like to push to the limit on a daily basis, emotionally, spiritually, sometimes physically, but I like getting to the edge. I like leaning over the edge and taking a look at what's there. I love it.
I get that.
Bet you do.
I get that. I mean, not only do I understand that in you, I can feel that, but I mean, also I have experienced some of that in my own life, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, and I think too.
So you've had sort of a spiritual thread to you throughout your life. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. But it's come from a physical place. I mean, I
think that helped you.
Yes, I think it cracked me open. I think an Ironman is triathlon is it's like an onion. You know, you keep peeling off a layer. The swim is the shortest first event. That doesn't tax you that much unless you a fear of water. Some people, the swim is their biggest obstacle. They get through the swim and they're happy. Nothing bothers them after that. But as the layers get peeled back in an endurance sport, and in particular in the Ironman, you can't hide anymore. You have this expectation, I'm going to do this certain time. I'm going to place, I'm going to get a paycheck. Well, when the work starts getting really rough, you start letting go of what you might earn or how it might look. You start getting down into that essence of who you are and where do you operate from. And in my very first Ironman, I understood it boiled down to, how do I put one foot in front of the other? And I knew I was going to survive. It wasn't that I thought I could die, because you are in some situations, obviously life and death situations are very different from this, but this is of your own construct, and to learn about yourself. I knew that life became very simple. One foot in front of the other towards your goal.
Well, you were a surfer, weren't you?
Yes. I have such a appreciation, admiration, reverence for the power of the ocean, Mother Ocean. She is just such an amazing presence to immerse yourself in.
And were there other women or girls like you that were surfing then?
Very few women in the early 70s were surfing, and we had to battle.
Mostly guys.
Huh?
It was mostly guys.
Yes, and their egos. And
I was going to ask, how did that feel?
No, it did not feel comfortable. It didn't feel welcoming, but who cares? I did it anyway. You know, I think that was when I was probably 12, 13, 14 on. Very young to sort of understand that men in groups are not receptive to a woman outsider.
But in a way, it made you stronger.
Totally.
It made you able to crawl over that finish line, because you had to do what other people weren't doing.
Yeah, and I think maybe there was a part of me that liked the idea of being one of the few women out there who surfed. I didn't have to worry about comparing myself to other women and how graceful they were, or how, big of waves they could surf. I was just out there learning the sport of surfing.
Right.
And even with triathlon, I never really compared myself to the men, other than the fact that I passed a lot of them. That was
well, I can understand that as a woman and as a physician, and being one of the few women in a sea of guys, with horn rim glasses and tweed coats, I mean, I stood there with them, and I said, I'm not any different than they are. So I'm going to do this. Well,
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? She was one of a few in her, her field. And I liked that I don't know why. I mean, I did like standing alone in a sense, just standing, I shouldn't say alone, on my own. I know there was the support of other women when you're out there doing your sports or surfing or whatever, but I like the idea that I could walk into any situation and hold my own.
Yes.
So there's an independent side. I mean, triathlon is an independent sport. You're not on a team. You're not allowed to even get too close to other people because it's considered an advantage on the bike if you're too close to somebody. So I did try team sports when I was younger, but I was terribly uncoordinated. And I just liked belonging with the group of girls in sports and putting on the uniform and being part of a group. It really wasn't about expressing myself physically. It took triathlon for me and surfing to kind of say, okay, this is how I want to express myself. And I don't need a team to do that. I can do that on my own.
Right. And so how did the spiritual part of you encourage you to move on?
Well, I think initially is when I watched the Ironman on ABC Wildwood Sports in 1981. And I thought, my first impression was it's in Hawaii. As a surfer girl from California, Hawaii's Mecca for surfing. So that drew me in, just the picturesque Hawaii. And then there were these gorgeous guys standing around getting ready to start the swim in Speedos. And I thought, well, that's not bad to look at either. So, I mean, as a young woman, I was appreciating all aspects of this sport. And it wasn't until the later stages of the marathon when it really, it got tough. And just seeing the expression, and they didn't show many women. They chose to focus on the men on the telecast that I watched. And I thought there's something about their willingness to, again, go deep, to just push themselves to the limit that just pulled me in. It was this physical, emotional, raw sense of the unknown. How far are they going to push themselves? Not knowing, and I mean, not having experience of that. It was very intriguing, but yet in kind of crazy because I didn't have a background in it. And I thought, okay, well, that was interesting. I'll move on. Even though I was a PE major at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, back then, now you'd call it kinesiology because it was a Bachelor of Science degree, but I needed a senior project. And I kept thinking back to that Ironman. I've never done a marathon. I've never done long distance biking. I surf, but I've never swam a mile in the pool even. But it was that sense, that I think that spiritual connection that I felt to that unknown place within myself. What would it be like to tap into that? So I literally went to my advisor and said, I think I want to do my senior project. I want to go to the Hawaiian Ironman and do it. And he just said, Julie, have you ever done anything like this before? No. I said, well, have you ever been a swimmer in high school or a runner or you've cycled? I said, no. And he just laughed at me and he said, let's see how this turns out.
Well, good for him.
He was encouraging me to take risks.
Yeah.
And to not let my inexperience stop me. I mean, how often are people, you're told you can't do something because you're not already good at it? It's like, well, no. So I went to Hawaii and the bulk of my training for that first Ironman came on the island, the big island of Hawaii. And I was there for 3 weeks. And because, to be honest, I wasn't a great student. When I undertook this project, I kind of procrastinated, kind of thinking it's like any other project. I can cram at the end. I'll be fine. Oh. Well, no, it turns out it's not so easy to do that when you're training for a marathon, a century bike ride, and a long distance ocean swim all at the same time. So what I did was I got to Hawaii and I really met a lot of those good looking men in Speedos and reached out and said, I could use some help here. Like, how do I manage these 3 sports? I have like 3 weeks to get ready for this thing. And rather than saying, what the hell are you doing here? You crazy girl. They said, all right, let's get going. Let us show you how to do this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were great friends until the race day. And then everyone switched. That's like this, they flipped their switch to competitive mode. Boom.
So a little bird told me you were a student of Brene Brown's. Is that right?
Oh, I'm
Did that
adored
have
Brene
anything
Brown.
to influence you with all of this, or?
Oh, I think Brene and I became friends much later in life. So in hindsight, right? I'm looking back on how free I was as a young woman, how I didn't have a lot of those preconceptions of myself. I didn't hold shame in my body. I really lived out loud. And to Brene Brown would say, I had worked through a lot of stuff to get to where I was. Well, I was young. I just was, my mother put all her expectations on my older brother. So I was free to sort of figure out school, didn't, just get a job. You don't have to have a career. All those pressures of, a mother raising me in the 60s and 70s. It was traditional to sort of say, you just marry well, you can go to college, but you should just end up marrying well. Whereas your brother needs a career and needs to be established.
Yeah, I got that story.
So I was free to just sort of play in school. And I didn't take school that seriously. I didn't take too many things seriously until those final mile of the Ironman on my hands and knees. I understood the seriousness of committing to something, anything. And I committed to that finish line. So Brene Brown is just one of those people I go to when I need a refresher course on not just who I was at 23, but who I want to be at 83. How do I want to live my life? And I want to kind of retain that youthful sense of no preconceptions, the beginner's mind.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And to kind
innocent child, within.
Yeah, to live that way my entire life. So I think I get bits and pieces all along the way. Brene's just been one. Gail Madeline Randall might just be the next, one who I can now carry with me from meeting you and getting your podcast.
Beautiful. So you've become a symbol of independence and inspiration, I would say, for the last many decades. So how did you see that as you went along? Was that something you strived for, or did you have to adapt to the way people saw you, or it just came from you? Or
I think there's pieces of everything that you just said that I can relate to. I think there was an expectation that I was going to become this, I'd walk in a room and people would want to be inspired. There's a little bit of pressure from that. I wanted to inspire myself with my racing. So I probably pushed myself too hard for many years and blew myself up in races as a consequence of wanting to be somebody who not only inspired, but lived up to that reputation of being inspirational. It took me a long time to settle into just owning my own abilities and knowing that if I worked really hard, I could change the face of that. I could improve my abilities and then I could improve my performance. But it really had to be an individual, without comparing to others. It had to come from within. And that took a long time to learn that I was okay just doing this for me. And I had a championship moment when I finally decided, you've taken shortcuts throughout your life. Why don't you prepare for this triathlon season? It was my first Ironman was in 1982. Now fast forward 7 years to 1989, and I had the opportunity to go to New Zealand and train on the North Island of New Zealand and in a quiet town. And I just no television, no phones, no distractions, and I just thought, what would it be like to show up completely prepared for a race? So really the outcome of the race isn't as important as the preparation for this, the journey. It's kind of like the journey became important.
What to you was completely prepared?
To know that I had followed to the letter the training plan that I had put out, and maybe even more, to devise a plan, follow it. And then if I, to maybe improvise a little bit, but not leave one thing out, not bail on myself, not bail on one day of training. And so I'd write things down. I'd write out a plan, and, I like to check the box, and that whole physical act of writing out your plan and then executing and then crossing it out and moving forward. I like all that.
Yeah.
I think that's a part of the whole process. And I remember distinctly showing up for this race and saying, okay, you're prepared. Don't worry about, do your best. And that's all that you can ask of yourself, because you're ready. You're ready.
At any level, right?
Oh, yeah. And turns out I won that race. And I remember looking over my shoulder as I'm coming into the finish chute and thinking, oh, so this is what it's like to be a champion. Because in Hawaii, I was second. I hadn't won. And I remember thinking it was this quiet sort of little pat on the back, like, good job, Julie. Good job. Yes, the cheers and the photographs and all that were wonderful. The music playing, the people in the stands, but knowing I had accomplished what I set out to do and it turned into a winning performance, that was just this really quiet, yeah.
That was it.
That was it. I mean, and it's interesting because I understand the idea of that acceptance from the world, that appreciation from the world is going to make it all feel so much better. I don't know if it does. I think
it was you.
Yeah, I think when you are completely satisfied, and that's why I say endurance athletics aren't fun, but they are deeply satisfying. When you accomplish a goal that is crazy, impossible, hard, it takes a lot out of you every day to just check off those little boxes on your way to delivering a performance. And then at the end, you're satisfied with it.
Yeah. If you can please yourself, oh my God, that's the best.
Yeah. I mean, we all want to be appreciated, I think, and have our work respected, have our performance respected. That's great, but that doesn't compensate for that deep sense of accomplishment that only you can feel.
Yes. So how many races did you do altogether of these kinds of races?
Oh gosh, Gail, I've lost count over the years. I mean, I really kept competing. I stopped competing in 2019. And then COVID hit and I replaced my left hip. So I tell people I proudly wore it out. It was just,
sure.
So I've lost count, honestly. 30, 40 Ironman distance races.
Wow.
And shorter ones, but spread over 40 years. That's that sounds normal.
Oh, that's huge. Is there a record? Is there, I mean.
Oh yeah. And of course, there's lots of people out there who are after that kind of record. I know people who have done something like 50 Ironmans in 50 days. I mean, they do crazy stuff. When I started in the sport, you couldn't find 10 Ironmans in the world. You could find 5, so it was, given the early stages of the sport and the opportunities, I was fortunate. I didn't have to chase records. I could just chase the best locations and the greatest, competition, and to be at the beginning of something is really fun. And
it is.
For the sport,
I'm a firster now too. Yeah, I'm that kind of girl. So, all the things you've done and all the people you've inspired and all along this 40 years, when did you write the book anyway?
Oh, that was, it was during actually kind of a little bit of a hiatus I was taking from doing triathlons. And I had been a lifeguard as a young woman in San Diego County. And I just thought, would I be able to pass the state lifeguard test again at 50? Was I 58? And sure enough, I passed the test. And so I I think something was posted on social media, and Robert Yaling congratulated me on, on passing my lifeguard test again at 58. So what, 30 years after I did it the first time. And, so I said, Robert, I have to tell you, every time I speak, every time I do an appearance, somebody comes up to me and says, when are you going to write a book? And I thought, well, when I miraculously turned into a writer. And so I asked Robert, I said, do you think you'd be willing to work with me as a co-author to help me with this, to do a book, a memoir of my time in triathlon? And he said, well, I think, I think it'd be fun. Let me reach out to my agent. And literally we had it, I think within 2 hours, we were now co-authoring, and the agent was on board. So it happened fast, but that kind of,
so I'm sorry, what year was that?
That was in 2016, 2017. Yeah. 2016. We finished the book in 2017.
Great. So that led another level of knowledge for you and another level of inspiration for
it's funny though, you're writing a memoir. And I kept telling Robert, I said, okay, this book is too much about me. We have to find a way to weave other people's stories into it as well. Because it's just, I can't do an I, me. It's just, I'm tired of me after a couple chapters of that. So we kind of wove in, the historical aspect of the sport, and talked to some other people, and, other interviews, and just kind of, just sort of went off in different little tangents to make it. And this is where Robert Yale
actually is kind of interesting, because you described how the sport formed and where it came from, and, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A historical side to it, and just the impact of not just, how the television show in 1982 came about. We had all kinds of background stories on the producers, and it was fun. It was really fun. Yeah. But it's hard, Gail, because now we have social media to all our postings to go back to, but to just rely on your memory to come up with all these details, that was challenging.
So let's look at it the other way. Going forward, what's the plan?
Oh, well, funny you should say that, because now I think I've got another book in me, but I'm going to do it with my best friend who I met my first day of college. And she has been my wing woman and my inspiration. She's been the leader or my wingman. With the two of us have had this friendship for 40 years. She is more in the, she's got her master's in marriage and family counseling. She's gone on to do other courses of study through life coaching. And so she's been having clients that she's talked to for years, but she's been my therapist. So I've had a best friend who's my therapist, and just our journey of friendship over 40 years. We're sort of talking again with Robert to help us weave together our stories, and that we keep pushing each other to have these adventures all throughout our lives. And now we're both entering, she just mid 60s. We're saying, how do you construct this adventurous life to go forward? And so we're kind of looking back at all the things we've inspired each other to do, and how we can keep pushing that forward. We're both native California girls. So kind of, we're this Cali girl adventure over time, but the idea that you're never too old to kind of have adventures, and how by inspiring each other, we hope to inspire others. So that's one thing.
And so the plan, or the motive, I guess, would be through your own inspiring each other, you're going to inspire other people.
Yeah, I hope that works. I mean, I know this is and the idea of a friend, a long-term friend, I think I'd like to think most people have that kind of friend in their life, and it's going to be speaking about that friendship as well, and how, the healing powers of friendship, and
Oh, yeah.
Not just motivation, but how it really sustains you.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. You know, there's a lot been talked about women, you know, inspiring, encouraging other women, and it even causes biochemical changes, which are beneficial. You know, the secretion of oxytocin, and it makes women want to be with more women and, you know, do more adventures. So yeah, it's out there. It's cool.
And I would have to say that I think I just saw a great documentary on Netflix on Phil Stutz. He's battling Parkinson's, but he's a therapist, and the actor Jonah Hill, it's his therapist, and Jonah Hill made this documentary as a love letter to his therapist. And Jonah suffers from some anxiety things, depression, and so he's Phil Stutz gives him STUTZ, gives him a roadmap, not just sitting back and taking notes and humming, you know, interesting. He's giving him a roadmap. And when he talked about, you have to address the body as your life force, or your whole life force. So the bottom of the pyramid is your body. The middle of the pyramid is your relationship to your body, your relationship to your other people, and your relationship to yourself. And he was talking about, to get the most immediate changes when you're struggling with physical, emotional challenges, is to focus on your body. And the body, by diet, exercise, sleep, and you know this so well as a physician. This is the mental side as well. You deal with the physical and the mental side as well, but it's the body. If you give yourself exercise and, you know, good food and good sleep, it's such a foundation then to explore and repair, challenge your relationship with others. And then the highest part of the pyramid, your relationship with yourself. And I really think that makes sense. I've used the physical body as my base for just about everything I've done in life. And supporting that physical body through exercise has opened so many doors for me. So in kind of looking back over my entire career, it was by accident that I found the Ironman, really, a happy accident, that it unlocked a lot of how I viewed the world through the physical vehicle to unlock how I relate to others and how I relate to myself. And I think there's something to that. I'm playing around with that now. It's like, this is, other people are tapping into it. You've tapped into it for health and wellness, how we're all interconnected. But to have had a career that relied on a physical body to do triathlons over 4 decades has really been key for me. It's unlocked a lot of doors.
Yeah, it's honestly, it sounds very well. I had the great opportunity to spend a lot of time with American Indian people, indigenous people in other countries as well. And they, I feel, are far more advanced than we are in some of these areas, you know, because they always think about holism as being the body, the mind, the spirit, and the emotions. It's all part of the same thing, you know, and that's what I hear you saying. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but that's what I hear.
Well, but I kind of, but what I guess what I could relate to is the idea the base of the pyramid's the body, that it's got to support. The physical has got to support as you move higher to your highest self, right? You've got to have a foundation of a physical body. And I just somehow, I think we talk about it a lot in this country, but to actually see people dedicating themselves to a strong, healthy body could be improved.
Oh yeah, and I think it helps, you know, and even helps people that have been through illness to come back into health, is to focus on that.
I mean, as a black belt, you definitely are taking care of, you know, your physical body.
Yes.
In a very specific way.
but recently, like I sort of talked about, I think in the first part, or I don't know if we left that in, but this year has been a very physically challenging year for me. I basically was gigantic boulders this big, fell off the cliff, bounced, hit the right side of my car, and drove me into the mountain.
Oh my God.
Which led me into a whole series of physical challenges. I mean, serious physical challenges. It almost lifted me off the earth. And because of my training in black belt, like I said, having that strong physical foundation and continuing to be an athlete all the way up until that point, it prepared me for those kind of challenges, because I got sepsis, which is total body infection, which led me into kidney failure because they mistreated my sepsis, which led me into gout, which is crazy because I'm a vegan, makes no sense. And then some other illnesses. And then finally I got a terrible kind of eye infection, which affected my brain and ended up blind, black blind. But I overcame that too. So I'm not 100%, but I would say I'm pretty well, along the way. And it's because of my courage, my self-confidence, my belief in healing, because that's what I wrote my book on. I don't believe in not being able to heal. I don't. And I think even people that have a disabling situation can heal. Everybody can heal. Not everybody gets 100% cured, but everybody can heal. And everybody can heal to the point where they live a happy life and can be accomplishing, the long-term goals they came here to do, follow their soul path and their soul purpose. And so that's what I'm doing.
I just got this overwhelming sense of what it must be like to have you as their physician, to have a patient have you as their physician, and with your strong belief that everyone can heal, and how you must just transport that to your patients. It's just.
Well, I hope so. There's still room in my roster if you want to come on. I'd love for us to co-inspire each other.
That would be great. That would be great. Yeah.
I even mentioned to Bob, we need a women's group, author group.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah, right. That, because we're all here to inspire other people, and we've chosen writing as one of our tools. It's a very healing thing. So I happen to write about literally healing, self and planetary, but there's a lot of ways.
I can only imagine there's going to be some very amazing, the process that you've gone through to heal your body, to come back from the brink. I just can imagine it's going to inspire you deeply with your next projects, with your writing.
Yeah. You tell her, yeah, for sure.
I mean, talk about, in the most simplistic ways, making lemonade when you get just a bushel full of lemons.
Yeah.
I think that's what life is about. It's about just making the best about what you're given, and
right. Not giving up.
Day. Yeah.
Staying grateful and, just believing that it's going to work out.
Yeah, I would say that one on my final Ironman, the last little lesson I got was, you only get those good lessons when you really screw it up, right? When you blow it
or get screwed up.
Right. In 2017, all I wanted to do was be on the podium. I wanted to end my career. I was finishing my book. I already saw the chapter. Julie Moss goes faster at 58 than she did at 23. She breaks her Ironman time. I was so focused on the bold print of that chapter title that I just went out, and by the first half of the Ironman, I blew myself up. I felt great, and I went too hard, and I made the rookie mistakes. And I literally got off the bike and couldn't run. I had
Oh.
my sponsor is a shoe sponsor. Their name is all over the run course. I had to get off my bike and walk up to my sponsors and say, I'm not going to start the run. The girl who doesn't give up isn't going to even start this run because I can't get the time I wanted. I can't get the Cinderella story that I wanted. And everyone looked at me like, oh, okay, wow, you must be really hurting. And no, I didn't get my way. I took my running shoes and I left and I went home and I didn't want to play anymore. Oh, well, that took me about 2 days of feeling like I made the right move. I realized no, you didn't come here for a chapter title. You came here to have an experience and to find out something about yourself out on the course. You didn't even start the run. So how you blew it. And so I came back the next year, and it's a whole process to qualify for the world championship, and you have to do it to qualify. And I just said, when I start that race, I will have gratitude for just the idea of being there. No expectation of how it's going to turn out. And it was just one of those days that it just there were magic moments throughout. And I didn't get to write about that because my book was done. And I basically turned it in with the chapter saying, I screwed up and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix it. And I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I'm going to fix it. And it was interesting from an author's perspective. I thought the book was kind of ruined in a way, that I had blown it so bad. And from a publisher and an agent's viewpoint, they said, Julie, nobody wants you to get the perfect ending. I mean, that's just too much. I mean, we like the way this has turned out much better. The fact that you failed and you had to pick yourself back up one more time and go back again. And isn't that just life? Like, just when you think you're going to get, that bold-faced type of a chapter head that you want in life, you might not get it. And you've got to be prepared to pick yourself back up and go back again.
Go again.
And gratitude is the healing power of gratitude blows me away.
Yeah. Yes.
Blows me away.
Right. Now, I agree with you, because it doesn't always work out the way we think, and things get taken from us, it seems like. But there's always, if you just wait, there's something that's going to happen that's going to follow that. And it's usually going to come from you, yourself, that's going to show you that was the way that it was meant to be. That was the way that it needed to happen, or you wouldn't be able to do X or whatever it is, and wow, those are hard, but I had some of those too.
Yeah, those are the ones that to me, those are the soul burning experiences, are when you kind of get it so completely wrong that
then you're burning a lot of karma. When you do that, and you're clearing the way. You're clearing the way for the next level.
It's just inevitable that it is burning the way, clearing the path.
Yeah.
And when you get glimpses of that path and you're in sync with that path, that feels pretty good.
Yeah, there it is. It's not really getting to that goal, getting to that book chapter. Right. It's the journey. And then understanding the journey, understanding the gift of that journey, and gratitude is in there big. But that's the secret. That's the secret. So thank you for that, Julie Moss.
You're very welcome. And I have so much gratitude for just having this time with you, Gail. I mean, this is, you are a presence that looms quite boldly in the world. And
well, we have more time to spend together, I feel. So I look forward to that.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is. So do you have any pearls or any specific things you want to leave with us? Right now?
I think I mentioned it a little bit. When I first saw the Ironman, I thought it was crazy. It was ridiculous for me to do. Sometimes those crazy, ridiculous dreams They don't have to make sense to anybody else. They don't even have to make sense to you, but they have to speak to you on a level that maybe you haven't felt before. It has to kind of connect with your imagination. That spark of your imagination somehow has to create a fire in your heart. And then everything else will find a way to make it happen.
Everything else falls away and lets it happen. Yeah.
Falls away. Yes. I love that. Falls away. Yeah. And I'd say when something is uncomfortable, you absolutely need to stick there and deal with it and lean into it.
Right. Lean into it.
Yeah. It's been said before, but it's worth repeating.
Definitely.
Lean into it and take a good look and don't leap, but lean. Lean in and explore what's making you uncomfortable, because it's sticking for a reason.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you.
I admire you.
Gail Randall, you're such an accomplished, gorgeous woman. I'm looking at you and I'm thinking you're a goddess, and it's so fun to have a goddess connection in my life. So thank you.
Oh, smoke and mirrors is all. Anyway, I look forward to talking to you some more.
Oh, thank you.
We'll talk soon when we get this.
All right. Thank you
edited.
so much.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Call me
Happy
soon.
New Year.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
This is Dr. Gail Randall from Soul Stories, and author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. I want to thank Saltology, our sponsor, at bathsalt.com, which fits perfectly into my medicine bag as it, like me, calls upon the ancient wisdom and modern technology to heal, especially with the stresses and ills of our modern times. The Bokak brand uses organic salts combined with organic essential oils sourced from ancient Egypt to provide a perfect remedy for your bathing ritual and healing from modern stresses. The Relief RX brand is a unique one-of-a-kind healing salt that uses organic CBD, treated with a unique emulsification process to create nanoparticles which easily enter the skin to most effectively heal and relieve aching muscles and joints. Whether from chronic inflammation or just a rough workout, this is the perfect healing bath, especially when you add the organic essential oils of neroli, lavender, eucalyptus, or grapefruit. Your body, mind, and soul will be lifted and soothed like never before. Go now to bathsalt.com. I also want to give special thanks to Larry Antonino and Agora Borealis Recording Studio for music and score, and also to closetotheearth.com for IT and computer assistance. I'm Dr. Gail Randall, creator and host of Soul Stories. I just want to thank you for listening to my podcast. I recently got a notification from the International Podcast People, and I was astounded that so many countries are listening to my podcast in the category of alternative health. So thank you, and please continue to listen. I especially want to thank Egypt, Croatia, Japan, and Switzerland, also France and Ireland, because my numbers were quite high there. So keep up the good work and check out my Instagram at Dr. Gail Randall, and particularly check out my Instagram TV, where you can hear me talking about alternative medicine subjects and also see me. It's a very good show, and I think you'll like the subjects. It's on 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, but it's recorded there, so you can find it there anytime you look. Okay, thanks again. I love you guys. Also supported by Randall Wellness Network. bringing health and wellness to you directly. Medical futurist Dr. Gail Madeleine Randall brings 40-plus years as one of America's most forward-thinking doctors, healers, and emerging authors onto a diverse media platform to empower our paths to health, wellness, increased consciousness, and vitality. Gail Madeleine Randall, MD, has long practiced, taught, and encouraged patients to take control of their healing processes and journeys. Randall Wellness Network provides a 360-degree platform for people to heal themselves, and she most emphasizes regenerative approaches for healing individuals, communities, and the planet as one. For more information, go to drgmrandall.com and Instagram at drgailrandall, and check out the robust Instagram series on Instagram TV, also Facebook, Randall Wellness, and also Dr. Gail Randall.